Yo, what's good, family? This is Midas Drop Podcast, and we are back. Look, before we get started, y'all make sure to go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We always posting content every Tuesday. I had a little hiccup where I had to post Thursday, but either way, you still got the content that week, which is better than nothing. But today, I want to go into a couple of topics. Well, a couple of topics that I've been thinking about lately from when I first started my podcast I first started my YouTube for Midas Print like 2 years ago. Now, the very first one was talking about writing, which we're going to get into, in my ebook, which is like based on the whole concept of intentional writing. So we're going to get started. When writing started, everything else started. Now, why do I say this? I always felt like all we do because of social media is right. And I grew up in the era of Twitter, which is now called X. I never understood why yet, but it's good to see that the brand is going through a change. So like for me, for somebody who's like building my own brand, and being able to see like what it's going to look like in the next 10 years as Elon Musk takes control of that, you get to see like what is more important than the logo itself. Because we do get caught up on the logo because we've been fixed with that. But like I said, I grew up in the Twitter era where it was like at the height of it. And then Instagram became like the hype during my time in college. So the kids actually my kids actually have a better grasp of Instagram because they're not on Twitter. But I would say this, that a lot of the times that I was on Twitter, I was texting or quote unquote writing. And that's when I truly understood how important it is to write. But I also want to get into what writing does for anybody. I don't know if people are into movies, but I've been actually like studying writing from a more theatrical perspective, trying to understand like writing in social media, writing through public relations, writing just through books, the subtext of like what people are saying on social media, and trying to understand my own brand and what the subtext is for my brand itself. Whenever I say Midas Print, leave your mark, make it your own, what is the subtext behind that, right? How does anybody get like a like subliminal message from hearing that? I know it's like straightforward, but it's just something I have to like, I'm like truly focused on, is like the very meticulous or minuscule thing that's within my message that I'm bringing out to the people within the brand. I know the symbol is very simple. The name is very, very simple. It actually leads people to questions. So I want to go over this. I get a lot of questions, and I want to go over with you guys. I get one question is, what does Midas mean? This is all on my website, by the way. But it's funny because now I get to just tell you the story of how I even came upon Midas. I knew about Midas Touch, but Midas Touch actually is a derivative of King Midas, which that's where I got the whole concept of Midas from. Now, the print is where I got the fingerprint from, which everybody has a unique fingerprint that they can leave their mark and make it their own. So that's where the concept comes in. But Midas is about King Midas, who wished that everything he touched turns to gold. That's very simple. But But for me, when I was writing and it all started, I got an inspiration from being a substitute at the time as a school teacher. And we were reading about King Midas. And I was like, wow, King Midas, everything he touched, turned to gold, which is very, I would say, very risky. Because, I mean, anything you touch, like we feel everything. We touch everything. So it wouldn't make sense to do that. So I was just in my head like, what if I came up with something called Midas print, but it had to be done through writing. So I was real big on like accomplishing goals. I became real big on writing because I've always been writing. If anybody wants to know my favorite movie, it is Freedom Writers. I know that movie was like an inspiration for me to become a teacher, but it also was a huge inspiration for me to understand the power of intentional writing. And that's like my childhood movie. I used to watch the movie every single night. Every single night, besides Nick at Night or Avatar the Airbender during that time. But Freedom Riders was very, 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 very extraordinary. The concept of the movie to this day, even my students, which I'm like 10 years older, have watched the movie, have experienced watching the movie, and have been inspired themselves. So this is where I go in to say that writing has been the focal point for me to start Midas Print. And right now we are I would say the infant stage of the brand, because right now I'm so focused on, I would say, a ton of things, but like I got the website up. Now it's time to like go keep networking, which is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And then getting people aware, creating postcards and everything, all those things that go with marketing and advertising, face to face within the community, going local. I'm not too big on trying to like go use ads and all that stuff. I want to be organic because the concept is super simple, and I know a lot of people that will gravitate towards it because it allows them to create something of their own. They don't have to like, claim Midas print in a way, but just make Midas print like a symbol or a NLP, which is a neurological language processing, whatever you call it, programming, neurological linguistic programming, which allows people or give people like a signal or a trigger to like go out and create something. That's all it really is. But I do have my other services, which is intentional writing, which is like the focal point for everything. And I would say this, that the more that I write, the more I begin to understand how I speak and trying to get into that speaking of like with people, because I obviously get off track when I speak, and that's like the hardest thing for me. So I write a lot because I'm trying to get to a point where I can speak fluently and get my point across briefly. But what I'm trying to understand is, while I'm writing, what is your next step for Midas Print? I feel like I've hit a bunch of goals, and then I'm starting to feel like a sense of like slowing down. I know consistency puts me in a mindset of longevity, but like when I'm not doing something for the brand or something that's centered around the brand, it makes me feel like that I'm wavering off or losing focus. I don't know if that's supposed to happen, but what I do want to think about is goals, ideas. First, ideas. So ideas. And since I've been writing the book, which I haven't finished yet, but what I've been learning is that ideas are the beginning of a goal. It's like the birth state. So you got the goals next. The goals have to have targets though. So if you have a goal, I'm gonna give you an example. Well, let's do ultimate goals because ultimate goals actually create consistency, discipline, and longevity. So your ultimate goal, let's say your ultimate goal is to accumulate multi-million dollars worth of net worth, right? That takes a lot of work. So that's what makes it fun now. Because you have to be consistent. You have to become a totally different person. You have to change your environment. And you have to focus on longevity, which discipline plays a huge role in that. So let's put that there. Accumulating generational wealth. Of like what, 30 million, 50 million, whatever your ultimate goal is. Now what comes up next is your targets. Because what I like to do with any of my goals is to chop them down. Let me give you for instance, my target with Midas print. I forgot. I mean, so when I started Midas print, I didn't really think about a goal. But eventually, when I became invested in the goal, I had targets. So my first goal was to get, this may sound bizarre, but I feel like there's going to be 9 billion people in the world someday, eventually. I don't know what would happen. Probably a baby boom would occur. I don't know. But I would just say, history repeats itself. I don't think. And then I think reverse psychology plays a big thing in media. Like, they tell you not to have babies, but then people end up having babies. Does that make sense? Or like if you tell people, if you legalize abortion or whatever and tell people they can't have babies, they end up having more babies. So that's the way I see it. And I feel like there's going to be a baby boom. I don't know when. I'm just saying, but don't quote me on that. Just pay attention to where I'm going with this. My major goal, 9 billion people to know Midas print. Now my target is I gotta have a lot of things in place. Like, obviously you gotta have a website because we're in a digital age. So the website, got that. So go ahead and check that out. The website, go ahead and check it out because I have it up. What else? I'm trying to like get into this so much. Oh, yeah, public speaking. Like, that's why I have that on there as well. Like, public speaking on the website, because I truly believe, like, the more you speak to people, the more you have more to offer, the more people become aware of Midas print. And I mean, I love TED Talk. So one day I'll be on TED Talk. That's one of my goals as well. But we're going through Midas print. We're focused on the ultimate goal. Just an example. Now, public speaking, I'm gonna only do 3 because I want to get into the other example. Public speaking, and then you have networking events. Those are my targets right now. Am I doing those? I think I'm doing a decent job. The website, yeah. Now, for accumulation of wealth, the target has to be, I guess starting a business. Target is starting a business. It's all about what you want to do. But I'm just giving people like a quick scenario. probably what I would do. I would start a business. Of course, I would start a business. Next, I would probably set up a trust fund because I mean you want to protect the funds, of course. You want to protect the money from taxes and all that stuff. You're trying to build this up for generational wealth. So I mean, then I would say I'm still learning business myself, so I'm like getting the gist of things. Starting business, setting up a trust fund. What else? Then you have to think about how much you want to make, how much you want to keep per year. That actually gets you to your ultimate goal. So I'm gonna put 20 million. Let's say 20 million. That'll be easy. 20 million, because you could do a lot with 20 million, especially if you build a business and it's accumulating, somewhere around that. But you gotta, when you're building a business, you gotta be able to take care of the business. There's a whole system in it where you don't keep everything that you make from the business. I understand that because Airbnb, man, I always go back to that whole example of how unsuccessful it was, but I did do a lot of things right, which I'll go over. I mean, I don't really mind about the things I did do right and the things I didn't do right, which, go figure. But 20 mil. So I would say what you want to keep is, let's see, I don't really want to do the math, but let's just say about 20 to 30%. And then the 70%, it goes back in, and then you got to spend that 70% on business and all those other things. So, I mean, I don't know if you can see this, but my handwriting is like trash. Like, it's not the best in the world. I don't know if I can do this, but I just put something together. But the way, I mean, you gotta look at things from a writer's perspective. When you're writing, let's say a research paper or a story, you always have a rough draft, but then you have to brainstorm first. Now, when I'm trying to come up with my goals and I can't think of nothing, I always do like mind mapping, especially for my ultimate goal. So like right now, I just did like a quick for target thing, but the biggest thing is to learn how to mind map and organize those thoughts and pull something out of it that you feel is going to be like beneficial towards accomplishing that goal. I do that a lot. I can actually give an example. But first I want to go over how I was going over how many things I did right when I was running my Airbnb. I think I did at least 5 or 6 things right. So I always had money to spend, but I always spent 70% on the business and kept 30% for like, spending on gas for my car, because I was doing DoorDash, so gas in my car, getting another Airbnb for myself and my son, then food. So it was like the basic things I needed. So it was like need based, but that's how I would do it. I have it structured that way, and I always made sure that if I couldn't take out 30%, I made sure that I paid for business operations all day. Like, if you don't pay rent, then you don't have a building. So I made sure that I paid rent every time. I didn't miss a payment. And also I made sure that I had insurance. So I was like, thinking about it. I was like, bro, you actually didn't do too bad. It's just you didn't execute. That was the biggest thing. So I did execute when I wanted to start Airbnb. I was like, I want to start Airbnb. Execute on that. But when it was time to expand, I didn't execute on funds too much. And then I didn't execute on taking care of myself. Like I was burning out like fast. And then my focus was off. My focus was truly off. Like I was doing a lot. Like I'm doing a lot now. I was doing combat training, running Airbnb, doing DoorDash, being a father. So those things became like sporadic. Didn't have enough time to like actually just calm down and really think about how I want to go about it. Well, and another thing is like my accounting. I was keeping account of all the spending receipts. Man, accounting is gruesome. I don't know how they do it. But that's one thing I was keeping up was accounting, the credits and debts and how much I was spending, how much I was keeping. Because what I learned was I did another thing right. I built a relationship with the bank and they told me, it was like, hey, you have to have double what you make. So like, let's say this, if I had put in 1,000 in the bank account, I at least need 2,000 to actually get funding. Like that's the only way they were gonna give me like a loan, a business loan, or anything of that nature. So it was annoying. It was like, yo, really? That's what I really need to do. So I was focused on that. But was I really focused? When I was writing and going over the ebook and like just like going down memory lane the way, I realized I didn't really have the focus that I have now. I didn't really have it. It wasn't there. Because what happens is you focus on one thing only, and then you build that thing enough to where it's like you can actually walk away from it and do something else, which is like building systems. So this is what I did this time. This is what I learned through what I was writing. That's why I said, everything else started writing, because I wouldn't have this podcast if I didn't write. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to speak to an audience. I didn't know how I got inspired, like, to even do this. Like, it's cool to start a podcast, but if you don't know why, and you don't know how you're going to keep it going, it's vain. Like, it's vain. There's no point in doing it after that. But I have a whole system put in place to where I'm like, okay, I can actually walk away from this eventually. That's the whole thing I want to be able to do, is be able to walk away. I'm not going to walk away from the podcast. Of course not. Of course not. I'm always have an audience and bring people on. And that's the fun thing about it, because I want people to learn, but I also want to learn forever. Like, I want to, as long as I'm doing this, I want to like continue to learn and understand like how you start is not how you're going to finish. People need to understand that. Like, I was thinking about like Gary V or like these big names or whatever, or even my mentor when he said how he started. Nobody knew what a podcast was. Nobody knew how to get on the radio. Well, everybody knew how to get on the radio, but that costs money, But the thing is, how my mentors started, how whoever you like or you influenced by started, they didn't start doing what they're doing now. Like, they started somewhere though and built upon that. Whatever skills they had, they took them with them, and then they built something off of that. So that's the biggest thing for me, is I started off writing on TikTok. Yeah, I really did. But I was already writing before that. But I was like, let me write and see how it goes. So I was writing, and then I came up with the idea of Midas print. And that's where I was like, okay, this is a brand. Like, I was trying to come up with something. I didn't know what to come up with, but I wasn't going to force it either. So when I was like, I'm going to come up with a brand, I think I started off like Midas Angelo, the writer, or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, that's cool. And then I started going over like all the names that I had throughout like school, college, Mike DeFilo, Magic, Force Recognition, those names, and then Midas Angelo. So I was like, okay, Midas brand, that's cool. Like everything written down turns into goals accomplished. And then after that, I stuck to that whole slogan. And that's, if I had to have a definition for Midas print, that would be it. Every goal written down turns into goals accomplished. Like, I literally written down all of my goals. Well, I have a lot of ultimate goals, but I did have like miniature goals that I did get accomplished. I didn't even think until I went back and read my journals that I had accomplished a lot of goals. So if you look at it this way, I think 3 to 4 years ago, I did start a brand and it was called Millennium Domain. I think Millennial Domain or the Millennium Domain. Whatever my whole name is, that's what I built it off of. Millennium Domain. And I think I was like going crazy. I was in the beginning stage. I was doing paralysis analysis, but I had so much excitement. I was like 23 or 22 at the time. And I was so excited about entrepreneurship. I was so excited about real estate. I was so excited about meeting new people. I was so excited about like building a brand or building a legacy. And I was like, I want to build around my name. So I did. I built something, Millennium Domain. It was like the very first thing. And I was doing a podcast. I think it was, 2018. I was doing a podcast and not too many people was fucking with it. It don't matter how excited I was behind it. If I was trying to get like a shoe brand. I had shoes. I had like try to get like a clothing line, print on demand, and like nobody was like really into it. But the thing was about it was just like I was that much into it. But there's a thing called "It's just not your time." But for me, I was like, now is my time. Why not me? Why not? Why can't I just get this done? Why do I have to wait for time? Time waits on nobody. Why am I waiting on time? Like, this is crazy. But I never gave up. Like, I was always practicing in the car. Or I was trying to write up something, write up a script or something. That's why I was saying writing was like the beginning of everything. Like, I could come up with something easily and start talking about it. See, I worked the muscle of just like talking like straight off, like the rip. If I'm writing something or I'm not writing something, I'm still going to speak because I've written enough. I'm writing enough to give more than enough. Like, I can actually speak about everything I write down. I don't have like the best memory, but I think I have a good memory enough to like be able to speak on the things I write about and actually remember them right then and there. So that was the story behind it all. Like, I had to focus on being a great writer, but also being a consistent one and being able to like flourish and coming up with ideas without having to force anything. Because at that time I was forcing everything. I was forcing my Millennium Domain, forcing that brand, pushing it, but didn't have like any real mentorship at the time. But like, I'm glad I went through those things because a lot of those people that like knew about it and knew I was doing it were like proud of me and like excited for me. And now I'm actually doing exactly what I said I was going to do. Whether it took me 4 years from when I started or 5, I got the shit done. It don't matter. Like, I got this shit done. So here's the thing I want to go into now. I would like people to start viewing consistency as a longevity game. Longevity. Because this whole, I wouldn't say theory, but I would call it bullshit to me, because people say, oh, it takes 20 days to like make a new habit and break the old one. For somebody like me who's actually did that before, no the fuck it doesn't. It really doesn't. Excuse my language, but it don't really do that. That's then, and that's what I hate about people that read a book that's hot but don't read other books to make it hot. Like it becomes reading one book and then you don't read any other book is not something that's actually hot. It's just because that's all that you know. And there's a thing that's called that there's a saying that a man who's only read one book knows none. Like, if you only read one book, I wouldn't really speak to you on anything else. Like, what are we gonna talk about? Like, there's not much we're gonna be able to speak on, because you only got one perspective. But the real perspective is to start viewing consistency as longevity. Why longevity? Because everything you do in your life, well, everything you've done in your life to this point has been building up of bad habits, and then good habits that you know, like, okay, well, I like this. I don't want to change that. But then there's the bad habits where, you know, why I'm always bringing these type of people around me, why I'm always stuck in these environments, why I'm always thinking this way, why I'm always eating these type of foods, or why I'm always discouraged, like when something don't go my way. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say consistency is a longevity game. And I love games. Believe it or not, I love games. But what I'm finding out is, like, from my own story and how I got started 5 years ago, this shit has always been a consistency game, longevity game. And that's where you have to switch your perspective, because for somebody like me, I mean, the building a habit or breaking an old habit to create a new habit in 21 days is fucking flawed, because everybody's different. Everybody's different, believe it or not. Like, it took me to work out in the gym, to stay consistent in that, bruh. I had to get help. So I had my homeboy who actually like had me in the gym and had me doing bodybuilding workouts, which is awesome, because that is some real, that stuff is real deal. Like, you gotta stay consistent for sure. And so I had help to start, but like, I was 2 months, I think 2 months in. But guess what? After I moved and I wasn't doing that weight lifting and all that stuff, I had to get back to it. But how I was gonna do it? So when I didn't have the help, I was doing it, but it was like small little workouts, being consistent, trying to be consistent. And then it took me a whole year before I got a gym membership. Like, this is how poor my mindset was. I said fuck the gym, because I didn't want to pay $40 a month or $30 a month. But when I finally did it, it changed my life. It changed my life. Fitness Project helped change my life. I like the name too. So, I mean, Fitness Project is like, oh, this is a project. I love projects, because I feel like playing video games, you're completing a project within a project. Like, the game itself was developed. It was a project. They just had to develop it. And then now you're playing it and you're getting the experience. Now you have to complete the project, which is completing the mission of the game. So that's how I got into that whole thing of like Fitness Project is like where it's at. It changed my life. Now all I think about is working out. You know, I can't. I feel like if I sit at home too long, there's something wrong with me, because I broke a habit of like sitting on the couch and being a couch potato. I really did. Even though now I'm on a podcast and I'm sitting in a chair, or it looks like a couch, right? But I'm not a couch potato because I'm producing a video. I'm producing a video for my podcast, my brand. Like that, there's a difference between the two. Now, this is my story and how I got into consistency. And it's probably going to be the same for you. Because what those guys were talking about in the book, the 21 days to break a habit, is not real life. It might be real life for some, but it's not really what's going on out here. Like you got so many distractions, you got so many people that look successful breaking that, their old habits in 21 days. But even they're not being realistic. But I'm going to be completely fucking transparent and say that I did not get to this point in 21 days. It actually took like the podcast and getting that together took like 5 years. The gym took like 3 almost, 2 to 3. And I was like, well, yeah, my journey of going to the gym is going to be 5 in 5 years span. I'm going to get to this body. No. That was not the case. In fact, I had to change up the goal and say, well, this is for the rest of my life, because health is wealth. You see how everything changed, the goal changed and everything? I had to think longevity instead of just thinking, oh, this is the goal for that. A lot of things, of course, when it comes to like money and how successful you want to be, how many people you want to meet, places you want to go, this, that, and the third. It's cool to do that, to have goals and set them and set dates and all that. But just be aware that life be lifing. Life be lifing. And sometimes the math don't be mathing. It just don't add up all the time. Because sometimes the goal that you set, you have to get experience in that, in trying to build that goal. That's why I always say ideas are not goals until you experience that idea in some way, shape, form, or fashion before you can truly make it a goal. And sometimes the ideas that you get are from somebody else, like the whole bodybuilding and stuff and shit like that. That came from an idea of my friend. Like my bro, he was talking about bodybuilding, but I wanted to get in the gym, so I was like, hell, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to, get the discipline to be, working out like a bodybuilder. It wouldn't hurt at all. Like it would change my life, and it really did. Like I cannot knock that. So there's another thing you gotta understand, like being around the right people will give you ideas, and within the idea, they'll actually help you get that experience. So you don't have, sometimes you don't even have to come up with the idea and then have the experience, but you do have to come up with the goal afterwards. That's why, like, surround yourself with the right people is important. Like, truthfully, I kid you not, like, without those people that I was around during that time and that I'm around now, it would be harder to do this. It'd be hard to do a lot of things because we as human beings need help. And look, here's another thing. Midas Print is here to help you. Midas Print is here to help you. Subscribe today on our YouTube channel, and also go to the website and become a member of the community Midas Print. Like, we are Midas Print's community. We'll help you out. Like, you just have to get started. The sooner you get started, the better. The better you connect with me, I'll get you thinking. And literally, I'll be like, since you have a cell phone, I'll be right in your pocket. Like, I guarantee it. I'll be right in your pocket. You just have to make the first move, which is tap in. Just tap in. That's all it is. That's kind of what the thumb is for. I really ain't get into that, but like the more I became like consistent with the brand and wanting to really build it, writing about it for a whole year. See, that's what I'm talking about. The consistency was there. The consistency, because I was like so nervous and so scared. Like I didn't know anybody that was building a brand until I just started. My mindset started to shift when I failed my Airbnb, and I was like, "Oh, yo, these are the top 3 things we did not do," and it probably played into our failure. We didn't go to networking events. We didn't build circles where I could share ideas with people and get help, get funding or whatever. And then the third is, I just didn't take care of myself. I didn't. My shoulder dislocated during combat, my combat competition. Wasn't getting enough rest. DoorDash definitely played a role in my shoulder, like constant driving. I'm learning that NASCAR drivers even, do this and with the shoulder. That's just crazy. And I learned all that through physical therapy. So like physical therapy was definitely a roller coaster ride for me. It was a roller coaster ride, and I loved the whole experience. Like I felt like a little kid. And it was like, yo, this is what you have to do to like strengthen your shoulder. What the fuck? Like, it's like some sit at home on the couch type shit. But I had to go through that. If I wanted to focus on longevity and combat sports or just anything and running, whatever it is, I had to like go get help. I need help. Like, help me. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the buttons on my on the website is help me. You press it, you sign up. Like it's funny as hell. But yeah, like that's what you need to be on. You need to be like, help me. Help me, help me. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's how you have to think. And I feel like that's just an amazing story. Like going to networking events. And what happens is so what happened was, this is crazy. I went to my first real estate event, but the thing is, the real magic came when I was consistently going. The consistency was there, like constantly going. Even if I don't have, so I go to like a real estate meetup. I go to 2 of them. One is, God, I forgot. It's hard to say because let me go look. I know it, but I don't know it. So the previous one I went to, if you watch my story, is the real estate ranch community. I went to that one. I go to that one all the time, consistently. And then this next one I go to as well all the time. Now this one is where I really, really met somebody who had a brand. So real estate ranch community, they have a brand too. So that obviously, they got that meetup. And that's what keeps me going. Like they're consistent and they're always like showing up. But this one is the smartest real estate investor meetup. I didn't even know that it was they had a whole brand they were advertising until like I actually looked. They had brochures and they're private money lenders, and I had them on my podcast. If you look at the episode, We Are a People Business, that is Marcus and Jaquita. They run this meetup for real estate, and they have a brand. Like you go in there, you see everything. Like they got it in your face, and I consistently kept going. Like even when it was slow, they had a lot of people. They didn't have a lot of people. They had a few people. It just happens. But you stay consistent. You meet people. And this is where I met Mr. Shoot Your Shot. I met Mr. Why Now Is Your Time. And those people all had brands. So guess what? I was in a room full of people. My environment was conducive to what I was trying to do. And they helped me. Tremendously. Start my podcast, help me build the brand. So what you see now is a direct influence of the circle that I was around. But I had to break habits. And the biggest habit was the thinking. This is what separate men from other men is your thinking, or women from other women is their thinking. Literally, your thinking causes you to go places. I guarantee it. So this is what I like to say to myself to actually like get me into that mindset is I say to myself, the mind take you places that the body cannot. Literally. I swear, like if you ever like daydream, right? And you ended up let's say you daydream about the Bahamas or something, and you ain't never been to the Bahamas, but you seen a commercial and you just could see yourself on the beach drinking from a coconut shell, whatever you could be drinking. I don't know. But that's what happened. Your body stayed still or wherever you were, but your mind took you somewhere. And you had like a mental experience. That's how I view it. But for me, I just knew how to keep showing up because there was a feeling that I was getting every time I went. And I still get that feeling. I get like ideas. And right now I have a hard time with real estate. So I keep going. I keep getting ideas. I keep getting an influence. I keep being around those people in that circle until eventually I'm like, okay, I got something for them, or I can do this, this, and this. And it keeps me in that mindset of like, always have something to offer, always have something to offer, always have something to offer. Because that's what I'm like always preaching to myself and telling myself. I want to practice what I preach. I don't want to like be telling somebody this and then, you know what I'm saying? Practice what I preach and then be able to teach it. Just like me teaching intentional writing, well, I had to be a student first, and I'm always going to be a student. I'm always going to be a student. I look into all aspects of writing. If I want to be completely honest, like I look into screenwriting, I look into writing books, I look into writing essays, and that's where I get the concept of writing to learn. Like I think I was always writing to learn about myself, but actually like writing to learn about a book I read and like getting some like new perspective that maybe I didn't get when I was reading. But when I write about what I was reading, you know, I get the understanding that this is the whole point of active reading. You read, then you write about what you read right away, and then you see what you got from it. And a lot of times in like the school system where I'm learning as a teacher, that's what makes me so effective. Even though it's my first year, is that I'm a student to writing. I'm a student to reading. And so it's not that I'm just like, oh, y'all need to read more. I read more. Oh, it's not y'all need to write more. I write more. You know what I'm saying? I write more myself. So that's something I learned. Like I'm writing to learn. And then I'm writing to create. To create. What am I trying to create? I'm trying to create discipline. I'm trying to create consistency. I'm trying to create a life worth living. See, a man that writes out his life will understand his thought process and then understand why he takes these actions that he takes, right? That's how I feel. Well, that's my perspective. I don't know about anybody else's perspective, but that's what I've learned from writing, and I hope people feel the same way about it. So, writing to learn, writing to create. Let's come up with one more. Writing to I wouldn't say elaborate. Let's say writing to I think that's it. Writing to learn, writing to create. Those two things. But I do want to add another thing. Writing to writing to let's do this. So writing to learn, writing to create, ideas are right. Ideas are right. And that's right as WRITE. So if anybody want to steal that, if you're a writer and you're trying to come up with a writing brand, look, I just helped you out a little bit. I just helped you out. Just by writing something and thinking about it. But it's probably going to be for my intentional writing page. So if you know what I'm saying, I feel this way. And this is probably like my motto. Ideas are right was, I obviously wrote that in the ebook. So a lot of things that I'm talking about is in the ebook. Well, not everything, but something I came up on the fly, and some things I didn't. But you get the gist. So website, public speaking. But look, now doing this podcast episode like by myself kind of like gives me the courage to do public speaking, right? It really does. It does. And gets rid of the nervousness. So there's a lot of benefits to doing podcasts. So for me, it's like getting rid of like being socially awkward, getting rid of like being nervous to like actually speak or actually like be open and like really, really, really talk about those issues or those things that you really want to talk about without being afraid. Because truly, it's like I haven't really said any cuss words or said anything disrespectful, but because of the anxiety and the anguish I might feel from like speaking, because public speaking, like not too many people do it. It's like the closest thing to death. So obviously not too many people gonna do it. But for me, it's like I can do it. I just need to practice. I need to practice. Now, obviously, the podcast to me has a lot of functions to it. It's got the brand, the brand, but the brand's tied in with the podcast, and then the podcast reaches a lot of people. But the podcast also helps me structure my public speaking, whatever script or whatever you call it. They like to say media kit, which I haven't done yet. But what I'm saying is like, there's a lot of functional benefits behind podcasting that nobody really thinks about. And I was telling my mentor the other day, I was like, I'm not really big into trends. I'm not. When I was doing a podcast, it wasn't really about the trend. It was about the brand and, spilling out a message, because everybody has a brand, everybody has a product, but the message is the business. The message is the business. And when you're in business, you don't want to make it fair. You want to make it great. That's what you want to do. You want to monopolize. And then that's crazy, because there's another thought. Like, I was watching the UFC 5 come out, and I'm digressing a little bit, but I watched it and they had like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali on there. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, is this the beginning of monopolizing martial arts? Like integrating boxing into UFC, like just strictly boxing, because obviously these are boxers and that's all everybody was doing. Like people that are fans of Muhammad Ali and fans of Mike Tyson, what does that do for the next generation? And how would they view UFC? So you have one championship, which has like, they have like strictly boxing, strictly Muay Thai, strictly kickboxing, strictly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which UFC does a thing. But boxing is probably like the only thing that's left that's, has its own thing going on. And then, the brand itself, like that's why branding is so important. Branding is like so important. This is why people put so much money into the brand of being advertised. But I did digress. But like I said, you want to make it great. You don't want to play fair. You want to make it great. And just understand this: what you do is what you get. So if you're not doing shit, like of course you're not gonna get anything. But if you're always doing something, Whether you're doing it for yourself. So these are some things I do for myself. Before we wrap this up, I run. I go to physical therapy for my shoulder, obviously. But I'm big on running, physical therapy, weightlifting. I'm a robotics coach. I'm a teacher. I'm into writing books. I'm into real estate. I am a single father. Yeah, I really represent the single fathers. And I feel like if you put your mind to it, whether you're a single father or not, you know what I'm saying, you can make anything happen. You could become a millionaire and be a single father. You can do anything. You just have to start with something. Literally, just start with something. It doesn't matter. If you have to start with a career and build a career and then do that and then go about doing the other thing, but like it's just people make excuses and we don't have time for that, especially single fathers. We do not have time for that because our job never ends, even for the mothers. But like when your child gets older, 18 and beyond, you're always going to be working, especially if you have a son. Like your job is never going to end. He's always going to need your advice. Because once you get out in the world, you're a man and you got bills, you got this and this and that. There's a whole bundle of shit. You got to figure out how to be at top of your game all the time. And I'm at the top of my game all the time. So I just want other single fathers to actually be at the top of their game all the time. But I always say, start with health because health is wealth. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Become a runner if you have to. Become a boxer. You ain't gotta be in the ring or whatever, but I mean, you should get into some sparring, Muay Thai or kickboxing, whichever. I don't know what you want to get into, but get into something. Start having a schedule. Like I know people that like have a job, and then that's all they have after work. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to work and then I'm going to go home and take a nap. What the fuck? What? You mean to tell me that you're a teacher, but you don't have anything else to offer to your community but to take a nap after school? Like, I know the kids are hard, but there's no way that they taking your energy away that much. There's no way. I would never fall to that. Nope. I fight kids on that all the time. They're like, you're not tired? No, I'm not tired yet. If I am, I'm just tired of the noise. And I want to get out. I want to get away. And then when I do, I have a burst of energy because I know outside of work, I have a whole community I'm building. I have like a ton of like to-do things on my list that I want to accomplish. Because at the end of the day, I want to always feel like a winner. Even if I have to create wins. That's why I say I write to create and I write to learn. I just, ideas are right. Like I'm glad I came up with that. It's so cool. Now I'm about to put that in the book. But anyways, make sure y'all subscribe. And y'all subscribe today, become a member of We Are Midas Print Community. Look, I would love to have y'all, and I would love to mentor y'all, and I would love to speak to y'all. But if you don't subscribe, I don't have much to do for you. I mean, I could talk to you all day, but that's not going to get us to where we need to go. So, hey, if you subscribe, make sure you subscribe to the channel. All right. And you subscribe to the community. We Are Midas Print. So you got two things. Subscribe to Midas Print, the podcast, the channel on YouTube, and to subscribe to the membership. We Are Midas Print Community. Thank you. Have a good day. Peace.